So, let's talk about a leader who, almost single-handedly, took a nation from the literal ashes of war and turned it into an economic superstar. It's an incredible story of progress for sure, but it's also a story of brutal power, tight control, and immense sacrifice. All right, let's dive right into this paradox.
We must sacrifice for the nation. Just let that sink in for a second. It sounds powerful, right? It sounds noble, even. A shared burden for a greater good. But you have to ask, what kind of sacrifice are we talking about here? And who exactly gets to decide what the nation really needs?
Well, the man who said those words was Park Chung-hee, the leader of South Korea from 1961 all the way to 1979. Now you got to picture this. He took over a country that was just devastated by war, one of the absolute poorest in the entire world, and he promised to forge a completely new destiny for it. The way he did it? Well, that's the key to this whole explainer.
His method has a name: authoritarian modernization. It's less of a theory and more of a political playbook, really. And it lays out a pretty stark trade-off. Give up your personal freedoms, your democratic rights, and in exchange, you'll get rapid, state-controlled economic prosperity. This is the lens, the only lens, through which we can really understand Park's legacy.
So let's start with that first part of the term authoritarian. Because we need to be clear, this was a government that was built with force, not by choice.
Park didn't win an election to get into power. Nope. He was a general, and he seized control in a military coup. So from day one, his government was a military dictatorship. And that's a really crucial point to remember here. This power was never given to him. It was taken. And to hold on to that power, he used an iron fist. Political opponents? Silenced. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, severely restricted. Protests? Crushed. So when he talked about that sacrifice for the nation, you have to understand it wasn't always voluntary. It was often demanded, and it was enforced with the full, unyielding power of the state. But that same iron fist was also holding a blueprint. And this is where we have to pivot to the other side of the paradox, the modernization. Park genuinely saw himself as the chief architect of a brand new South Korea. And believe me, he had a very specific vision in mind. His goal was crystal clear and honestly, unbelievably ambitious: to drag South Korea kicking and screaming out of post-war poverty and turn it into a global economic force. We're not talking about small incremental improvements here. This was a plan for total national transformation, the very thing people now call the miracle on the Han River. And the plan was incredibly structured. First, the government took absolute control of all economic planning. Second, it just poured resources into heavy industries. Think steel, shipbuilding, the works. And third, the entire economy was re-engineered to do one thing: export goods to the rest of the world. It was basically a top-down industrial revolution, but running at hyperspeed. And so here it is, the core conflict, laid out right in front of you. On one side, you have the methods: a military dictatorship, political repression. But on the other side, you have the results: absolutely incredible economic growth and the building of a modern nation. The most important thing to get is that in Park's world, you can't have one without the other. They are two sides of the very same coin. Which, of course, brings us to the massive, complicated question of his legacy. What are we supposed to make of all this incredible progress when we stop and actually consider its immense, immense price? So let's circle all the way back to that quote from the beginning. Knowing everything we know now, what does "we must sacrifice for the nation" really mean? Who truly bore the cost of this grand national project? Was it a collective effort, or was the sacrifice of some forced upon them for the benefit of everyone else? Ultimately, the entire story of Park Chung-hee and the miracle on the Han River, all of it boils down to one fundamental and, let's be honest, deeply uncomfortable question. Is progress worth the price of freedom? There's just no easy answer to that. Park's legacy is still fiercely debated today in South Korea and all over the world, precisely because it forces us to look this dilemma right in the face. It's a question that echoes through the history of so many countries, and it's a question we'll leave with you.